Villains, the antithesis of the heroes, the imposing force of doom and gloom that must be stopped in order to save the world at all costs. No matter what you call it, it is no understatement to say that there are just as many iconic villains as there are heroes. Darth Vader, Frieza, Joker, Thanos, there is truly a bottomless well of all kinds of villains in all forms of media. And in this bottomless well, there is a variety of flavors, like Ben & Jerry ice cream flavors. Oh, do I want Thanos Berry Snap or Darth Doc Fudge? Regardless of your flavor of villain, the villain, in my humble opinion, is more important than that of the hero, because a lackluster villain can severely hurt the story. Today, I want to talk about a villain that didn't start out as the greatest evil, but rose to the occasion, much like the hero in the story. Today, we're talking about Tomura Shigaraki from My Hero Academia. Before we go any further, two things. One, everything you see here in this video is my own opinion. This video is made for entertainment purposes, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Two, there's obviously going to be spoilers up to this episode of the anime, so tread beyond this point of your own volition. You also may notice I had to take some creative liberties with the sub-videos in order to avoid YouTube's copyright algorithm. I can assure you though that the subs remained unchanged. First, a quick recap. My Hero Academia follows the story of Izuku Midoriya, a plucky young teen who wants to grow up and be a superhero, just like his muscle daddy. But without a superpower called a quirk, he can't be a hero. But by chance, he meets Muscle Daddy, and Muscle Daddy passes on a power to him called One for All. But before he can become a true blue hero, Midoriya must pass the greatest challenge of all, high school. Now that the summary is out of the way, let's talk about the main man himself. Shigaraki is the leader of the League of Villains, a villain group bent on destroying the world. While Midoriya is taken under the wing of All Might, symbol of peace, Shigaraki is taken under the symbol of fear, All for One. While Midoriya's journey to heroism is interesting and the potential topic of another video, the Shigaraki we get near the end of Season 1 and the Shigaraki we now have in Season 6 are completely night and day different. This can be attributed to the change in the type of villain we see Shigaraki become. And I know what you're thinking, Steve, what do you mean type of villain? Well, allow me to introduce you to the Villainometer, a handy-dandy tool for figuring out what kind of villain we have on our hands. First, let's take a look at the far left side of the scale. On this side of the scale, we have VFVS, or Villains for Villain's Sake. These bad guys have no other reason to be bad than to be bad. Evil for the sake of evil. You can probably think of a few villains who fit this type of archetype. Darth Vader, Muscular, or that weirdly hot girl from Wonder Over Yonder. While many critics would say that this type of villain is weak in terms of sustenance, that doesn't devalue them in any sort of way. I remember the first time I saw Darth Vader and how scary he was. Now, let's go to the opposite end of the scale, the far right. On this end, we have villains with agendas, villains with their own set of beliefs that just happens to put them on the path opposite to the hero. Now, before some of you start to scratch your heads and ask, but Steve, don't all villains have agendas? That doesn't make any gosh darn sense. Allow me to elucidate you with an example. Thanos is the perfect example of someone who sits on the far right. Thanos believes himself not to be a villain, but rather a hero. A shepherd who must guide the universe to a new beginning. His motives aren't done out for the sake of evil, but they're done for a set of beliefs greater than himself. Villains, ones like Thanos who sit on this end of the scale, would probably have this sort of interaction with the hero. So, it's time, huh, Hero-kun? I suppose it is, Villain-san. Don't suppose I could convince you to give up the gem. With this power, I could weed out the corrupt people in our society, like those fools who exterminated your village. It's funny. Part of me agrees with you, Villain-san. This world is full of corrupt people who think only of themselves, but what you're doing is wrong. Such senseless violence won't stop anything, so with all the strength I have, I'm gonna stop you here and now! My terrible voice acting aside, I hope you understand what I mean when I say villains with agendas. I mentioned Thanos earlier, but other villains come to mind who fit this mark. Count Dooku, Ra's al Ghul, Light Yagami, Lelouch, to name a few. Now that the scales are set, I want you to think about where some of your favorite villains would sit on this scale. Leave your opinion in the comments below. But for now, let's turn back to our handy-dandy boy Shigaraki. In Season 1 of the series, Shigaraki and the League of Villains mount an attack on the USJ. The purpose of this little field trip is to kill All Might. Why does Shigaraki want to kill All Might? Because he can, and we see this line of thinking come through in a conversation he has with Stain in Season 2.
目的は何だ?
とりあえずはオールマイトをぶっ殺したい。気に入らないものは全部壊したいな。
With Nomu and Kurogiri at his side, Shigaraki just wants to flex his power and kill All Might, because All Might is good and he is bad. More evidence of this line of thinking is present in the type of people we see assault the USJ. These guys are thugs, and the only reason they want to follow Shigaraki is because he has the big gun, and if he can really kill All Might, it would net them some fame in the criminal underworld. This season introduces Shigaraki as someone who hates All Might and wishes to destroy everything he stands for. That's Shigaraki's desire. While Season 1 plants Shigaraki on the far left of the scale, we start to see in Season 2 that he's gradually being nudged down towards the other end by All For One. All For One knows where Shigaraki is on the scale and wants to push him to the opposite end, but in order to do so, he needs to be persuaded. This is where Stain comes in. Stain is the well which all events of My Hero Academia drink from, and Shigaraki, be it unintentionally at first, brought a big gulp. After the attack on the city by the Nomus, Shigaraki is enraged to find out that his exploits aren't the main topic of discussion. Everyone is talking about Stain and his ideals. It's so rampant that there's even hero killer themed merch. However, Shigaraki can't see the difference between them, as highlighted by this exchange he has with Midoriya at the mall.
誰も俺を見ないんだよ。なぜだ?いくら脳が鍛れようが、結局奴も気に入らないものを壊していただけだろ。
To which Midoriya explains,
僕はお前のことは理解も納得もできない。ヒーロー殺しは納得はしないけど、理解はできたよ。
Despite being a villain, Midoriya can respect Stain for having principles and ideals he believed in, whereas Shigaraki destroys for the sake of destruction. There's no underlying beliefs for his actions. Realizing that Midoriya is right, Shigaraki's ambitions are ignited, and we see him slowly begin to move down the scale. However, this movement is pretty gradual at first, as many of his childish tendencies tend to slow him down, combined with the fact that his desire is mostly self-fulfilling and selfish. The destruction of All Might and the hero society he represents. That is his drive. However, it's in Season 3 that Shigaraki gets a wake-up call and a push in the right direction. The push being the defeat of All For One at the hands of All Might. But before that, let's talk about the attack on the training camp. Now armed with ambition and followers of comparable power, Shigaraki launches an attack on the training camp with the sole objective to undercut the abilities and trust of what All Might represents. Heroes. The discontent sprinkled from this event is evident in how the reporters attacked Nezu and Aizawa during the press conference.
分かっちゃいたが攻撃的。ストレスかけてそやな発言を引き出そうとしてる。
While Shigaraki does succeed, it comes at a price when All For One loses to All Might. The loss of his mentor ignites Shigaraki's ambitions even further, as the position All For One had, the greatest evil the world had ever known and king of the underworld, was now vacant, and many people were gunning for it. That is his goal. Now eager to fill the spot left by All For One, Shigaraki is moving down the scale at a much faster rate. But in Season 4, Shigaraki meets someone running parallel to him to the same objective, Overall, who asks something different of Shigaraki. Take this interaction they have when they first meet.
計画はあるのか?計画のない目標は妄想という。妄想をプレゼンされてもこっちが困る。
Overhaul does the work for me and spells it out clear as day. Ambition and goals mean nothing if you don't have a clear plan to achieve them. You can be the most motivated athlete in the world and have a dream of being the best, but without knowing how to get there, you won't achieve anything. But Overhaul made the mistake of assuming Shigaraki was just some dumbass without a plan.
向こうは連合の機動力を削ぎ、かつ有用なお前らを懐柔したいんだろう。外堀から取り込んで従えたいんだ。
Shigaraki recognized, likely thanks to his teachings from All For One, that he would have to act on better judgment in order to become stronger and worthy of the position of King of the Underworld. It's thanks to the oversight by Overhaul that Shigaraki gained another piece to his grand plan. Season 5 is the most critical arc for Shigaraki's development, as we see once again someone running parallel to the League of Villains. However, it's not just some lowly criminal organization, it's a full-blown empire. We start the My Villain Academia arc with Shigaraki meeting the doctor who creates the Nomus. Doc states that he can give Shigaraki greater power, but he's too weak right now and must become stronger in order to handle the bare minimum. In order to achieve this strength, Shigaraki and the rest of the league fight against Gigachad for several months straight. Shigaraki is pushed to his very limits with no sleep and near-death training. Then, suddenly, the Metal Liberation Army comes a-knockin'. The conflict with the Liberation Army, specifically his fight with Redestro, helps bring to light Shigaraki's past, and formulate the ideas on which his desire for destruction is based on.
俺は本当にただ壊すだけだ。未来なんかいらないんだ。その先は連合の奴らが好きにすればいい。こんなものも全ていらない。
Furthermore, by being pushed within an inch of his life fighting Gigachad, Shigaraki is able to unlock a more powerful version of his quirk through an awakening. His ideals combined with his power are able to bring Redestro to his knees and make Gigachad recognize him as All For One's successor. Finally, we see Shigaraki accept an even greater power, just as the doctor promised. He now has the power to change the world as he sees fit. Finally, we have Season 6. Everything has come to fruition, and Shigaraki has reached his final, ultimate form. Everything from previous seasons coming together into something bent on destruction. Desire, drive, goal, plans, power, and ideals. These things are all mixed together to form the base that Shigaraki now stands on. At the far right of the scale, he is now the ultimate villain, evil for beliefs greater than himself. The new symbol of fear is here. Aw man, my biggest video yet. I've been waiting to make this one ever since I read the manga, and I'm so happy to finally have it out there for the world to see. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you can see when I post other videos. I got a lot more ideas in the future planned, so be sure to stick around for those. I ain't got much to say, so have a good day. Take it easy.